Hello everyone, and welcome to Feel Learns English. My name is Shafi, and I'm really happy you're here today. If you're watching this video, it means you have a good B2 level in English. You can understand most conversations, express yourself in daily situations, and communicate comfortably in many contexts. Now you want to go higher. You want to reach C1 fluency, where your English is more natural, flexible, and confident in real-life situations. That's exactly what we will focus on today. In this lesson, you won't just listen. You will speak, repeat, learn new vocabulary, and train your brain to think in English. Every part of the lesson is designed to help you move step by step from upper intermediate to advanced English. So stay with me until the end, because the final part brings everything together and shows you how to use what you've learned in real life. Before we start, grab a pen and paper or just stay focused. The more actively you participate, the more you'll improve. Let's start with upgrading everyday sentences. At B2, your sentences are usually clear but simple. At C1, you need more detail, nuance, and expression. For example, B2 sentence, I had a busy day. C1 upgrades could be, I had an incredibly demanding day with barely a moment to catch my breath. My day was packed with responsibilities and constant activity. It turned out to be a challenging day filled with back-to-back tasks. Notice how these versions add detail and emotion. Now, say them out loud and try making your own version. Another example, B2, I'm a bit tired. C1 upgrades. I'm feeling rather drained after everything I had to handle today. I'm slightly worn out, but I'm managing. I'm pretty exhausted after such a long and intense day. One more, B2. The movie was good. C1 upgrades. The movie was genuinely captivating and far better than I expected. It was a beautifully crafted film with a surprisingly deep storyline. I found the movie engaging, especially the way the characters were developed. See how adding detail and subtlety makes your English sound more advanced? Next, let's practice connectors. At B2, you probably use so, because, but, however, and also. At C1, you can use more advanced connectors like nevertheless, on the other hand, in contrast, as a result, consequently, even though, in addition to that. For example, B2, I wanted to go for a walk, but it started raining. C1 versions. I wanted to go for a walk. Nevertheless, the sudden rain forced me to stay indoors. I had planned to go for a walk. However, the rain made it impossible. I felt like going for a walk. Yet, the unexpected rain changed my plans. Using these small upgrades in sentences and connectors will push your English from B2 to C1, making it richer, smoother, and more natural. Each of these sentences sounds more polished, natural, and advanced. Repeat after me. Nevertheless, the sudden rain forced me to stay indoors. Good. However, the rain made it impossible. Yet, the unexpected rain changed my plans. Let's try another example. B2, I stayed home because I was tired. C1 upgrades. I decided to stay home since I was feeling completely worn out. I chose to stay in as I didn't have the energy to go out. I remained at home, given how exhausted I felt. Repeat after me. I decided to stay home since I was feeling worn out. Great. I chose to stay in as I didn't have the energy. Nice. I remained at home, given how exhausted I felt. Excellent. Now, let's shift to describing things with precision. B2 speakers often use simple words, nice, bad, interesting, big, small. C1 speakers choose words that paint a picture. Example, my room is small. C1 upgrades. My room is compact but comfortable, with just enough space for everything I need. Though my room is modest in size, it feels warm and inviting. It may be small, but it has a cozy atmosphere that makes it feel like home. Repeat after me. My room is compact but comfortable. It feels warm and inviting. Now, think of your own space and create a C1 description of it. Next, let's practice idiomatic expressions, which make English sound natural. Examples. I'm worn out, very tired. That was a piece of cake, very easy. I can't make sense of it, I don't understand. I'm over the moon, very happy. Repeat after me. I'm worn out. That was a piece of cake. I can't make sense of it. I'm over the moon. These expressions are used in real conversations, movies, and series. They help your English sound authentic. Now, let's focus on nuance, synonyms, emotional expression, and paraphrasing for skills that separate B2 speakers from C1 speakers. At B2, you communicate clearly. At C1, you communicate precisely by choosing the right words. Example, I'm happy. C1 upgrades. I'm delighted with the results. I'm genuinely pleased with how everything turned out. I'm absolutely thrilled about the news. I feel deeply content at the moment. Repeat after me. I'm delighted with the results. I'm genuinely pleased. I'm absolutely thrilled. I feel deeply content. Another example, I'm sad. C1 versions. I'm a bit upset about what happened. I felt disheartened after hearing the news. I was deeply disappointed with the outcome. I felt heartbroken when I realized what it meant. Repeat after me. I'm a bit upset about what happened. I felt disheartened. I was deeply disappointed. I felt heartbroken. By upgrading your emotional vocabulary, your English becomes more expressive, natural, and capable of describing real feelings. Finally, let's work on paraphrasing, a key C1 skill. Even if you forget a word, you can keep speaking smoothly. Basic sentence, I don't understand this. C1 paraphrases could include multiple advanced ways to say the same thing, which we'll practice next. Let's practice more C1 expressions and paraphrasing. Example, I can't make sense of this. C1 upgrades. I can't make sense of this. This doesn't quite add up for me. I'm having trouble figuring this out. I'm struggling to understand what this means. Repeat after me. Now, imagine you forget the word solution. At B2, you might freeze. At C1, you can say, a way to fix the problem. An answer to the issue. A method that works. This keeps your speech natural and fluent. Another example, it's expensive. C1 upgrades. It costs quite a lot. It's fairly pricey. It's on the expensive side. It's not exactly cheap. Repeat after me. Next, let's work on connectors, which make your speech sound logical and structured. B2, I like my job. It has flexible hours. C1 upgrades. I enjoy my job, particularly because the hours are flexible. One of the main reasons I appreciate my job is the flexibility it offers. I genuinely like my job mainly due to the flexible schedule. Repeat after me. Another example. B2, I don't agree with him. C1 upgrades. I'm not entirely convinced by his argument. I see his point, but I don't fully share the same opinion. I understand where he's coming from, though I view it differently. I have some doubts about his perspective. Repeat after me. Now let's practice advanced connectors for contrast, reasoning, and adding information. Although, despite that, in contrast, on the other hand, in addition to that, as a result, consequently. Example, B2, I was tired. I kept working. C1 upgrades. Although I was tired, I continued working. Nevertheless, I pushed through. Despite feeling tired, I managed to finish everything. Repeat after me. Real-life sentence practice. B2, I finished the project. C1 upgrades. I managed to complete the project on time. I wrapped up the project earlier than expected. I brought the project to completion after several hours of work. Repeat after me. Descriptive fluency. B2, the weather is nice today. C1 upgrades. The weather today is pleasantly warm with a light breeze. It's a beautiful day, bright, calm, and perfect for being outside. The air feels fresh and the sunlight is gentle, making it a lovely morning. Repeat after me. Real life practice. Someone asks, "How was your weekend?" B2, it was good. C1, my weekend was really enjoyable. I spent time with people I care about, and it felt refreshing. It was a relaxing weekend. I finally had time to unwind and do the things I'd been putting off. Or you could say, my weekend was productive and surprisingly peaceful. I feel recharged for the week ahead. Repeat after me. It was really enjoyable. It was a relaxing weekend. I feel recharged for the week ahead. Welcome back. You're doing an amazing job staying focused and practicing actively. In this section, we'll focus on storytelling, natural rhythm, advanced grammar, and daily expressions that native speakers use all the time. These skills will help you move from B2 English, which is clear but sometimes simple, to C1 English, which is richer, smoother, and more natural. Storytelling. At B2, stories are often short and simple. Yesterday, I went to the supermarket. I bought some food. I met my friend, then I went home. Clear, but not engaging. At C1, you connect ideas naturally and add detail. Yesterday afternoon, I went to the supermarket to pick up a few things I needed for the week. While I was there, I unexpectedly ran into a friend I hadn't seen in a while. We ended up chatting for a bit before I finished my shopping and headed home. Repeat after me. Yesterday afternoon, I went to the supermarket to pick up a few things. I unexpectedly ran into a friend I hadn't seen in a while. We ended up chatting for a bit before I finished my shopping. Another example, B2, I cooked dinner last night. It was good. C1, I cooked a simple dinner at home, and to my surprise, it turned out really well. The flavors blended nicely, and the whole meal felt comforting after a long day. Repeat after me. Last night, I cooked a simple dinner at home. It turned out really well. The whole meal felt comforting after a long day. Rhythm and tone. At B2, learners often speak word by word. I went to the store to buy food. At C1, group words into chunks for smoother speech. I went to the store to buy some food. I wasn't expecting it, but the day turned out great. I've been trying to finish this project all week. Repeat after me. I went to the store to buy some food. The day turned out great. I've been trying to finish this project all week. This rhythm is how native speakers naturally talk. Advanced grammar. At B2, basic tenses work fine. At C1, you show flexibility. Example, I studied English last year. C1 upgrades. I spent most of last year focusing on improving my English skills. I had been studying English for several months before I joined the course. I was studying English regularly throughout last year to build consistency. Repeat after me. Conditionals. B2 often uses first and second conditionals. If it rains, I'll stay home. If I had time, I would travel. At C1, you use more complex forms. Third conditional. If I had woken up earlier, I wouldn't have missed the bus. Mixed conditional. If I had studied harder in the past, I would be more confident now. Repeat after me. If I had woken up earlier, I wouldn't have missed the bus. If I had studied harder in the past, I would be more confident now. These structures show advanced fluency and appear often in natural English. Now let's work on collocations, words that naturally go together. B2 speakers might say strong rain or do a decision, but native speakers say heavy rain, make a decision. Using collocations is essential for sounding natural at C1. Here are some reliable collocations. Take responsibility, deeply concerned, fast learner, make progress, highly effective, strong possibility. Example sentences. I need to take responsibility for my actions. I'm deeply concerned about the situation. She's a fast learner and adapts quickly. This method has proven to be highly effective. Repeat after me. Take responsibility. Deeply concerned. A fast learner. Highly effective. Using collocations in real life. Question: how's your new job? B2, it's good. C1, it's going really well. I've been making steady progress and learning new skills every day. The team is supportive and I feel like I'm adapting quickly. Repeat after me. It's going really well. I've been making steady progress. I feel like I'm adapting quickly. Descriptive skills. B2, the city is beautiful. C1, the city is incredibly vibrant, with lively streets and a great atmosphere. It's a beautiful city filled with unique architecture and friendly people. The city feels full of energy, especially in the evening when everything comes to life. Repeat after me. Incredibly vibrant. Unique architecture. Full of energy. Describing experiences. B2, I enjoyed the event. C1 upgrades. I genuinely enjoyed the event. It was both inspiring and well-organized. I found the event surprisingly engaging, especially the discussions. I appreciated the event because it gave me new perspectives. Repeat after me. I genuinely enjoyed the event. It was inspiring and well-organized. I gained new perspectives. Daily life expressions. B2, I had a long day. C1, I had a long and demanding day, but I managed to get everything done. It turned out to be a really intense day with plenty of challenges. It was a full day, and by the end of it, I felt completely drained. Repeat after me. A long and demanding day. An intense day with plenty of challenges. I felt completely drained. Expressing opinions. B2 speakers often say, I think. I believe. In my opinion. C1 speakers diversify their expressions. As far as I'm concerned. From my perspective. I'm convinced that. It seems to me that. I would argue that. To the best of my understanding. Example. B2, I think learning English is important. C1 upgrades. As far as I'm concerned, learning English is essential for personal and professional growth. From my perspective, English is a gateway to global communication. I would argue that learning English opens opportunities that wouldn't exist otherwise. Repeat after me. As far as I'm concerned. From my perspective. Adding depth to opinions. B2 often expresses an opinion in just one sentence. I don't like this idea. At C1, you expand your thoughts. I'm not entirely convinced by this idea, mainly because it lacks clear direction. I see the intention behind this idea, but I believe it needs more structure. I understand the reasoning, though I'm not sure it would be effective in practice. Repeat after me. I'm not entirely convinced by this idea. It needs more structure. I understand the reasoning, though I'm not sure it would be effective. Soft disagreement. B2, I don't agree. Sounds too direct. C1, soft, polite disagreement. I see your point, but I have a different perspective. I understand what you mean, although I'm not completely on board. That's an interesting idea, though I would look at it another way. I agree to an extent, but I think there's more to consider. Repeat after me. I see your point, but I have a different perspective. I'm not completely on board. That's an interesting idea, though. Idioms and natural expressions. Native speakers use these all the time. To be on the same page to understand each other. To take something into account to consider. To keep someone posted to update someone. To fall behind to make slower progress. To catch up with to return to something unfinished. To make up your mind to decide. Examples. Before we start the project, let's make sure we're on the same page. We need to take several factors into account. I'll keep you posted on any updates. I'm falling behind on my work. I need to catch up with my assignments. I haven't made up my mind yet. Repeat after me. Expanding simple statements. B2, I'm stressed. C1, I'm feeling quite stressed at the moment because I have a lot on my plate. I'm a bit overwhelmed right now. There's so much I need to take care of. I've been under a lot of pressure lately, and it's starting to affect my focus. Repeat after me. I have a lot on my plate. I'm a bit overwhelmed. I've been under a lot of pressure. Natural transitions. C1 speakers use transitions to make ideas flow. Adding ideas. Furthermore, in addition to that, on top of that contrast. However, nevertheless, even so explanation. In other words, to put it differently, what I mean is. Examples. B2, I like the idea. It's simple. C1, I like the idea. In other words, its simplicity is what makes it appealing. I like the idea. Furthermore, it's practical and easy to apply. Repeat after me. In other words. Furthermore. To put it differently. Daily life examples. B2, I didn't finish the report. C1, I didn't manage to finish the report. However, I'm almost done and can complete it tomorrow. I wasn't able to finish the report today, but I made significant progress. Repeat after me. I didn't manage to finish the report. I made significant progress. Natural spoken English phrases. C1 learners also use phrases that sound natural in conversation. Actually, I've been meaning to do that. To be honest, I didn't expect that to happen. Now that you mention it, that makes sense. If you think about it, it's pretty logical. You know what I mean? That sounds fair enough. These phrases help your English sound natural, fluent, and native-like. Natural spoken English phrases. Repeat after me. Actually, I've been meaning to do that. To be honest, I didn't expect that. Now that you mention it, that makes sense. If you think about it, it's pretty logical. That sounds fair enough. Expressing uncertainty. B2, maybe he's late. C1, he might have been delayed by traffic. It's possible he lost track of time. He could be running behind schedule. Repeat after me. He might have been delayed. It's possible he lost track of time. He could be running behind schedule. Real-life dialogue fluency. Imagine talking with a coworker. B2, I didn't understand the instructions. C1, I'm not entirely sure I understood the instructions correctly. Could we go over them again just to make sure we're aligned? Repeat after me. I'm not entirely sure I understood the instructions. Could we go over them again? Advanced description. At B2, the place is nice. The food was good. My friend is funny. C1 upgrades. The place is nice. The place has a warm, welcoming atmosphere that makes you feel comfortable as soon as you walk in. It's a lovely place, quiet, clean, and surprisingly charming. Repeat after me. A warm, welcoming atmosphere. Quiet, clean, and surprisingly charming. The food was good. The food was beautifully prepared and full of flavor. The meal was delicious, with a balance of rich and fresh ingredients. The dishes were thoughtfully presented and genuinely enjoyable. Repeat. Beautifully prepared and full of flavor. A balance of rich and fresh ingredients. My friend is funny. My friend has a great sense of humor. He always knows how to lighten the mood. She's effortlessly funny. Her jokes are natural and never forced. Repeat. A great sense of humor. Effortlessly funny. Professional communication. C1 phrases used at work. Could we clarify this point to make sure we're aligned? I'd appreciate it if you could follow up on that. Would you mind giving me a quick update? Let's circle back to this topic later. I'll look into it and get back to you. This approach seems effective, provided we manage the risks. Repeat after me. Could we clarify this point to make sure we're aligned? I'd appreciate it if you could follow up. Let's circle back to this topic later. I'll look into it and get back to you. Upgrading simple B2 sentences. B2, I need help. C1, I was wondering if you could give me a hand with this task. Could you assist me with this? I'd really appreciate your input. Repeat after me. I was wondering if you could give me a hand. I'd really appreciate your input. B2, I don't understand this. C1, I'm having trouble fully understanding this part. Could you explain it a bit more? This section isn't entirely clear to me. Could you clarify? Repeat after me. I'm having trouble fully understanding this part. This section isn't entirely clear to me. Subtle emotions. At B2, emotions are often simple. I'm angry. I'm sad. I'm happy. I'm nervous. At C1, emotions become more nuanced. B2, I'm angry. C1, I'm really frustrated with how things turned out. I'm upset about the situation and trying to process it. Repeat. I'm really frustrated. I'm upset about the situation. B2, I'm sad. C1, I've been feeling a bit down lately. I felt disheartened after hearing the news. Repeat. I've been feeling a bit down. I felt disheartened. B2, I'm nervous. C1, I'm feeling a bit anxious about this. I'm slightly on edge because I'm not sure what to expect. Repeat. A bit anxious. Slightly on edge. B2, I'm happy. C1, I'm genuinely pleased with how things are going. I'm really glad everything worked out so well. Repeat. I'm genuinely pleased. I'm really glad. Natural, everyday phrasing. C1 speakers use expressions that make speech effortless and authentic. To be honest, as far as I can tell, if I'm being completely honest, to tell you the truth, as it turns out, believe it or not, for what it's worth. Example sentences. To be honest, I wasn't expecting that. As far as I can tell, everything looks fine. As it turns out, the solution was much simpler. Believe it or not, I finished the project early. Repeat after me. Expressing partial agreement. Instead of simple I agree / I don't agree, use I agree to some extent, but you make a valid point. Although that's true, there's another side to consider. I see where you're coming from, though. Repeat. I agree to some extent. You make a valid point. I see where you're coming from. Explaining reasons clearly. B2, I didn't go because I was tired. C1, I didn't go because I was absolutely exhausted and needed some time to rest. I was too worn out to attend, so I decided to stay home. Repeat. I was absolutely exhausted. I was too worn out to attend. Describing daily life naturally. B2, my morning was busy. C1, my morning was incredibly busy. I had a long list of tasks and barely any time to slow down. It was a hectic morning with back-to-back responsibilities. Repeat. Incredibly busy. A hectic morning. B2, I had a good day. C1, I had a really good day. Everything flowed smoothly and I felt productive. It was a rewarding day. I managed to complete everything I had planned. Repeat. A really good day. A rewarding day. Speech rhythm and flow. At B2, speech can be choppy. I went to the store. I bought something. At C1, speech flows naturally. I went to the store to pick up a few things. This rhythm makes your speech sound smooth, confident, and native-like. Smooth speech and chunking. B2, I went to the store. I bought some things. The day was good. C1, I went to the store to pick up a few things. I didn't expect much, but the day turned out better than I thought. I've been trying to finish this project for days. Repeat after me. I went to the store to pick up a few things. The day turned out better than I thought. I've been trying to finish this project for days. Chunking / grouping words naturally. B2, I don't know if I can finish this today. C1, I don't know if I can finish this today. I'm not sure whether I'll get it done in time. I might be able to finish it, but it depends on the workload. Repeat. I don't know if I can finish this today. I'm not sure whether I'll get it done. It depends on the workload. Real conversational flow phrases. C1 phrases for smooth, relatable speech. You know, I didn't expect that at all. To be fair, the situation was a bit complicated. At the end of the day, we all want the same thing. If you think about it, it actually makes sense. Honestly, I didn't see that coming. Repeat after me. You know, I didn't expect that at all. To be fair, at the end of the day. If you think about it, honestly, I didn't see that coming. Interactive conversation practice. B2, I didn't finish the task. I was busy. C1. I wasn't able to finish the task today. I had a lot going on, but I can wrap it up tomorrow. I didn't manage to get to it because something urgent came up. Repeat. I wasn't able to finish it today. I had a lot going on. Something urgent came up. Complex grammar made simple. Present perfect continuous B2, I study English. C1. I've been studying English for a while now. I've been trying to improve my speaking. I've been focusing a lot on pronunciation lately. Repeat. I've been studying English for a while now. I've been trying to improve my speaking. I've been focusing on pronunciation. Reported speech B2, she said, I'm tired. C1. She mentioned that she was tired. She told me she'd had a long day and was exhausted. Repeat. She mentioned that she was tired. She told me she'd had a long day. Advanced conjunctions B2, I was tired but I worked. C1. Even though I was tired, I managed to finish my work. Despite feeling tired, I kept going until everything was done. Repeat. Even though I was tired. Despite feeling tired. Storytelling with emotional depth. B2, I met my friend. We talked. Then I went home. C1. Yesterday evening, I met up with a friend I hadn't seen in months. We ended up talking for nearly an hour, catching up on everything that had happened recently. By the time I headed home, I felt surprisingly refreshed and grateful for the conversation. Repeat after me. I met up with a friend I hadn't seen in months. We ended up talking for nearly an hour. I felt surprisingly refreshed and grateful. Another example, B2, I had a bad day. C1. I had a rough day today. Everything seemed to go wrong, and by the end of it, I felt completely drained. Upgrading daily expressions. B2, I'm very tired. C1. I'm absolutely exhausted. I'm worn out. I'm running out of energy. Repeat. I'm absolutely exhausted. I'm worn out. B2, I'm busy. C1. I've got a lot on my plate right now. I'm juggling quite a few things at the moment. I'm swamped with work today. Repeat. A lot on my plate. I'm juggling a few things. I'm swamped. Expressing reasons and explanations. B2, I didn't go because it was late. C1. I decided not to go since it was getting quite late and I didn't want to rush. I chose not to go as the timing wasn't ideal. Repeat. I decided not to go. The timing wasn't ideal. Expressing expectations and surprises. Practice natural reactions. I wasn't expecting that. It turned out better than I thought. It caught me off guard. Surprisingly, it worked out really well. I didn't see that coming. Repeat. It turned out better than I thought. It caught me off guard. Surprisingly, it worked out well. C1 level monologue practice. Listen and repeat in parts. To be honest, today turned out much better than I expected. I had a lot on my plate this morning, but surprisingly things went smoothly. I managed to get most of my work done, and I even had time to catch up with a friend in the afternoon. All in all, it was a productive and refreshing day. Repeat phrases. Turned out much better than I expected. I had a lot on my plate. Things went smoothly. All in all, it was a productive and refreshing day. Advanced connectors. B2 uses because, but, so, also C1 expands with. In light of that, with regard to, in contrast to, having said that, in addition to this, on top of that, nevertheless, as a consequence. Practice in sentences. In light of that, we may need to reconsider our plan. With regard to your question, I think we should check the data first. In contrast to last year, our progress has been much faster. Having said that, there are still challenges we need to address. In addition to this, we should explore alternative options. On top of that, we're running out of time. Nevertheless, we managed to complete the task. As a consequence, the deadline had to be extended. Repeat after me. Applying connectors in real situations. B2. We had some problems, but we finished C1. We ran into several issues along the way. Nevertheless, we managed to complete the project on time. We faced a few unexpected challenges. In light of that, it's impressive that we still met the deadline. Repeat. Nevertheless, we managed to complete the project. In light of that, it's impressive we still met the deadline. Natural conversational reactions. Common C1 phrases. That makes sense. Fair enough. I get what you mean. I see where you're coming from. Yeah, I can relate to that. That's a good point. Actually, that's not what I expected. Oh, I didn't realize that. Repeat after me. That makes sense. I get what you mean. I can relate to that. That's a good point. Oh, I didn't realize that. These exercises combine daily expressions, advanced reasoning, connectors, natural reactions, and monologue practice, all key to sounding confident at C1. Expressing abstract ideas. B2. I like reading C1. Reading allows me to explore different perspectives and understand the world in a deeper way. B2. Learning English is important C1. Learning English provides access to opportunities and cultures that would otherwise be out of reach. B2. I want to be successful C1. For me, success means having the freedom to choose the life I want and the ability to grow continuously. Repeat. Explore different perspectives. Access to opportunities. Freedom to choose the life I want. Ability to grow continuously. Explaining reasons at a higher level. B2. I didn't go to the event because I was tired C1. I didn't attend the event because I was completely drained after a long day and knew I wouldn't enjoy it fully. I decided to skip the event since I needed some time to rest and recharge. Repeat. I was completely drained after a long day. I needed some time to rest and recharge. Expressing balanced opinions. B2. I think working from home is good C1. In my view, working from home offers greater flexibility. However, it can also make it harder to separate work from personal life. Working from home has clear benefits such as saving time on commuting. Having said that, it can sometimes feel isolating. Repeat. Offers greater flexibility. Makes it harder to separate work and personal life. Has clear benefits. Having said that, adding nuance. Instead of saying it's difficult, try. It's somewhat challenging. It's fairly demanding. It's more complicated than I expected. It requires a bit more effort than I thought. Repeat. Somewhat challenging. Fairly demanding. More complicated than I expected. Context-rich explanation. Example. To be honest, adapting to a new environment takes time. At first, everything feels unfamiliar and you might even feel a bit overwhelmed. However, gradually things start to fall into place. You learn the routines, get to know the people, and eventually begin to feel comfortable. Repeat key parts. Adapting to a new environment takes time. Everything feels unfamiliar. Eventually, you begin to feel comfortable. Expressing assumptions and possibilities. B2. Maybe he forgot C1. He might have forgotten to check his messages. It's possible that he overlooked the reminder. He could simply be running behind schedule today. Repeat. He might have forgotten. It's possible he overlooked the reminder. He could be running behind schedule. Mini monologue practice. As it turns out, the meeting went much better than I expected. At first, I thought we might run into some disagreements, but everyone was surprisingly cooperative. In addition to that, we managed to cover all the key points within the first hour. All things considered. Repeat key phrases. The meeting went much better than I expected. Everyone was surprisingly cooperative. We managed to cover all the key points. All things considered. This section focuses on abstract ideas, nuanced reasoning, balanced opinions, assumptions, and monologue practice, all essential for sounding natural at C1. Expressive language, metaphors, and storytelling. Key metaphors. Time is flying, time feels fast. My mind went blank, I couldn't think. He has a heart of gold, very kind. Her patience is wearing thin, losing patience. A double-edged sword has good and bad sides. Repeat. Time is flying. My mind went blank. He has a heart of gold. Her patience is wearing thin. A double-edged sword. Using metaphors in real sentences. B2, I was tired. C1, by the end of the day, my energy had completely drained away. I felt like my battery was running on 1%. Repeat. My energy had completely drained away. My battery was running on 1%. Expressive emotional storytelling. B2, I had a stressful day. C1, to be honest, today felt like one challenge after another. Everything piled up so quickly that I barely had a moment to breathe. By lunchtime, I could feel the stress weighing on my shoulders. Repeat key chunks. One challenge after another. I barely had a moment to breathe. The stress weighing on my shoulders. B2, I was surprised. C1, when I heard the news, it completely caught me off guard. I didn't know what to say for a moment. Repeat. Completely caught me off guard. I didn't know what to say. Building tension in storytelling. Example. Yesterday, I was rushing to make it to an appointment. Everything was going smoothly until I realized I had forgotten an important document at home. My heart sank. I knew I had only a few minutes to decide whether to go back or keep going. In that moment, time felt painfully slow. Repeat highlights. My heart sank. Time felt painfully slow. I had only a few minutes to decide. High-level phrasal verbs. Common C1 phrasal verbs. Carry on with continue. Bring up, mention. Point out, highlight. Work something out, solve. Run into someone, meet unexpectedly. Look back on, reflect. Come up with, think of. Get around to, finally do something you delayed. Practice sentences. I'll carry on with the project while you check the data. She brought up an interesting point during the meeting. I just wanted to point out a small error. We finally worked out a solution. I ran into an old colleague yesterday. When I look back on last year, I realize how much I've learned. He came up with a brilliant idea. I still haven't gotten around to replying to that email. Repeat slowly and naturally. Carry on with the project. Brought up an interesting point. Point out a small error. Worked out a solution. Ran into an old colleague. Look back on last year. Came up with a brilliant idea. Get around to replying. Emphasis. At B2, you might say, it's very important. At C1, you upgrade. It's absolutely crucial. It's highly significant. This is essential for success. I can't stress enough how important this is. Repeat. Absolutely crucial. Highly significant. Essential for success. Can't stress enough. White heavy checkmark. This section now covers metaphors. Expressive emotional storytelling. Building tension. High-level phrasal verbs. Natural emphasis. Advanced emphasis. Powerful intensifiers. It's absolutely essential. It's incredibly important. It's extremely valuable. It's vitally important. Repeat. Absolutely essential. Incredibly important. Extremely valuable. Vitally important. Soft emphasis. A bit challenging. Slightly confusing. Somewhat unexpected. Fairly common. Repeat. A bit challenging. Slightly confusing. Somewhat unexpected. Fairly common. Real-life example. B2. The instructions are confusing. C1. The instructions are slightly confusing, but I'm sure we can figure them out. The instructions are incredibly unclear. I'm not surprised people are having trouble. Repeat. Slightly confusing. Incredibly unclear. Subtle emotional reactions. Practice these natural C1 expressions. Honestly, I wasn't sure how to react. I felt a wave of relief when it was over. That moment really stayed with me. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I was genuinely moved by what happened. Repeat. A wave of relief. That moment stayed with me. I couldn't shake the feeling. C1 level narrative practice. Example story. Last night, I was going through some old photos and suddenly a whole wave of memories washed over me. It's strange how a single picture can take you back instantly. As I looked back on those moments, I realized how much has changed and how quickly time flies. Repeat key chunks. A whole wave of memories washed over me. It can take you back instantly. How quickly time flies. C1 reflection practice. To be honest, I've been thinking a lot about how quickly life changes. Sometimes it feels overwhelming, but other times it reminds me to appreciate every moment. Repeat. I've been thinking a lot about how quickly life changes. It reminds me to appreciate every moment. Contrast and concession. Common C1 connectors. Although, even though, while, whereas. Despite the fact that, nevertheless, even so, at the same time. Repeat. Although, even though, whereas. Nevertheless, even so. Example sentences. Although I was exhausted, I still wanted to finish the task. Even though the meeting ran long, it was surprisingly productive. While the idea sounds simple, the execution is far more complex. Whereas my colleagues prefer working in silence, I enjoy a bit of background noise. Despite the fact that I studied for hours, I still felt nervous about the exam. Nevertheless, we managed to solve the problem. Even so, I think we should review everything one more time. At the same time, I understand why some people disagree. Repeat key parts. The execution is far more complex. Despite the fact that. Nevertheless. Even so. Advanced comparisons. C1 alternatives to basic comparisons. Far more effective than. Nowhere near as simple as. Slightly more challenging than. Considerably better than. Not nearly as difficult as. Every bit as important as. Significantly different from. Repeat. Far more effective than. Nowhere near as simple as. Every bit as important as. Example sentences. This approach is far more effective than the one we tried before. The task was nowhere near as simple as it looked. This topic is slightly more challenging than the last one. The new system is considerably better than the previous version. The exam was not nearly as difficult as I expected. Good communication is every bit as important as technical skill. Her reaction was significantly different from what I imagined. Repeat. Far more effective than the one we tried before. Not nearly as difficult as I expected. Every bit as important as technical skill. Now, let's improve your ability to tell emotional stories naturally, a key C1 skill that shows fluency and clarity. For example, last week, I went for a walk to clear my mind. It had been a busy day and I needed fresh air. While walking, I ran into an old friend I hadn't seen in years. At first, I didn't know what to say, but as we caught up, I felt a warm sense of familiarity, as if no time had passed at all. Repeat these key expressions. I went for a walk to clear my mind. I needed fresh air. I ran into an old friend. A warm sense of familiarity. Here's another example. I felt overwhelmed at first because so much was happening at once. But slowly, things started to make sense. One step at a time, everything fell into place. Repeat. I felt overwhelmed at first. Things started to make sense. Everything fell into place. Next, let's practice polished spoken expressions to make your English sound smooth and natural. Here's the thing, to be completely honest, if I'm being realistic, as far as I can tell, the way I see it, at the end of the day. Example in context. Here's the thing, learning English takes time, but it's worth it. To be completely honest, I didn't expect such quick progress. As far as I can tell, consistency matters most. The way I see it, you're on the right track. At the end of the day, what matters is that you keep going. Repeat key phrases. Consistency matters most. You're on the right track. Keep going. Now, let's combine storytelling, comparison, and polished expressions in one mini monologue. Yesterday was more exhausting than I expected. I thought I'd finish by noon, but tasks were much harder than they looked. At one point, I felt overwhelmed, but I kept going. Slowly, things started to fall into place. At the end of the day, I was proud of my progress. Repeat key expressions. More exhausting than I expected. Much harder than they looked. Things slowly fell into place. Proud of my progress. Next, we'll focus on C1 skills for arguments, persuasion, and clear reasoning, essential for meetings, presentations, interviews, and deeper conversations. Argument building phrases. The main point I want to highlight is that one reason this matters is because a key factor to consider is what makes this especially important is, to put it another way. Example. The main point I want to highlight is that daily practice is more effective than long sessions once a week. One reason this matters is because consistency builds long-term memory. What makes this especially important is that regular practice keeps your brain connected to the language. Repeat, daily practice is more effective. Consistency builds memory. Regular practice keeps your brain connected. Persuasive phrases. I firmly believe that. There is no doubt that. It's widely accepted that. I would argue that. It's reasonable to assume that. From my perspective. Example. I firmly believe anyone can reach a higher level of English with guidance and effort. I would argue that listening and speaking practice are as important as grammar. It's reasonable to assume that your progress will improve once you build strong daily habits. Repeat, right guidance and consistent effort. Listening and speaking are just as important. Your progress will speed up. Now, let's work on tone shifting, a key C1 skill. Tone shifting means changing your language depending on who you speak to. Here are 3 levels: informal, neutral, and formal. Asking for help. Informal, hey, can you help me out with this? Neutral, could you help me with this, please? Formal, would you be able to assist me with this matter? Repeat, can you help me out? Could you help me? Would you be able to assist me? Declining politely. Informal, sorry, I can't make it tonight. Neutral, I'm afraid I won't be able to make it tonight. Formal, unfortunately, I must inform you that I'm unable to attend. Repeat, I'm afraid I won't be able to make it. I'm unable to attend. Clarifying a point. Informal, I don't get what you mean. Neutral, I'm not sure I understand what you mean. Formal, I'm not entirely certain I grasp your point. Repeat, I'm not sure I understand. I'm not entirely certain I grasp your point. Next, let's practice professional workplace expressions. To the best of my knowledge, as far as I'm aware, it would be helpful if we should take into consideration that. Could you elaborate on that point? I appreciate your input. Example sentences. To the best of my knowledge, the report is accurate. It would be helpful if we could review the data once more. We should take into consideration that the deadline is approaching. I appreciate your input. It gave us a new perspective. Could you elaborate on that point so we fully understand your idea? Repeat key phrases. Review the data. Deadline is approaching. New perspective. Now let's strengthen explaining reasoning, something advanced speakers do naturally. High-level phrases. The reason for this is that. This is mainly because what this means is that this ultimately leads to, as a result. Example. The reason for this is that your brain needs repeated exposure to build strong memory pathways. What this means is that listening daily becomes a crucial habit. This ultimately leads to faster comprehension and more natural speaking. As a result, your confidence grows and fluency becomes more automatic. Repeat key phrases. Crucial habit. Natural speaking. Your confidence grows. Next, complex reasoning in presentations or discussions. Language learning is not only about memorizing vocabulary. It's also about understanding how words interact in real contexts. This is mainly because communication requires flexibility and quick thinking. When you train your brain to recognize patterns, you respond more naturally even under pressure. Repeat key phrases. How words interact in real contexts. Communication requires flexibility. Respond naturally under pressure. Finally, let's combine everything into a smooth C1 level monologue. The main point I want to highlight is that fluency develops through consistent exposure. I firmly believe that even small daily habits can transform your confidence. What this means is that you don't need to study for hours. Instead, focus on regular listening and speaking. As far as I can tell, this approach is far more realistic and sustainable. At the end of the day, if you stay consistent, your progress becomes inevitable. Repeat, fluency develops through consistent exposure. Small daily habits can transform your confidence. This approach is realistic and sustainable. Your progress becomes inevitable. In this section, we will focus on 4 powerful C1 skills: advanced paraphrasing, natural idiomatic expressions, narrative flow, and real-life decision-making language. These skills make your speaking sound flexible, confident, and natural. 1. Advanced paraphrasing. Paraphrasing means expressing the same idea in a different way without changing the meaning. It shows flexibility and clarity. Common expressions. In other words, to put it differently, what I'm trying to say is, another way to look at it is, to phrase it more simply. Example sentences. The workload increased this month. In other words, we need to manage our time better. This topic is complex. To put it differently, you need a strong foundation. We need a new strategy. Another way to look at it is we must approach the problem from a fresh angle. I don't think he meant to upset you. What I'm trying to say is his intention wasn't negative. It might sound confusing. To phrase it more simply, you need to practice consistently. Repeat key phrases. Approach the problem from a fresh angle. His intention wasn't negative. Practice consistently. 2. Idiomatic expressions. Idioms make your speech more natural and lively. Practice these. Take your time. Keep an open mind. Make up your mind. Hit the nail on the head. Go the extra mile. Get the hang of it. Stay on track. Lose track of time. That rings a bell. Out of the blue. Example sentences. If you're learning something new, take your time. It helps to keep an open mind. When the deadline is near, you'll need to make up your mind. Your explanation hit the nail on the head. She always goes the extra mile at work. Don't worry, you'll get the hang of it soon. If you stay on track, you'll reach your goals faster. I completely lost track of time while working. That name rings a bell, but I can't remember where I heard it. He called me out of the blue after 5 years. Repeat key chunks. Hit the nail on the head. Go the extra mile. Stay on track. Out of the blue. 3. Narrative flow. Narrative flow is telling a story smoothly, naturally, and with emotional depth. Example story. Earlier today, I was on my way to work when something unexpected happened. As I stepped onto the bus, I noticed someone familiar. At first, I wasn't sure, but then it clicked. It was a friend I hadn't seen in years. We started talking, and suddenly the morning felt brighter. It reminded me how small the world can feel sometimes. Repeat emotional expressions. Something unexpected happened. It all clicked. The morning felt brighter. How small the world can feel. Another example focusing on internal thoughts. Last night, I stayed up late to finish a project. At one point, I felt stuck. No matter what I tried, the ideas weren't coming together. But after a short break, everything started to flow again. It reminded me that sometimes stepping back is the best way to move forward. Repeat, I felt stuck. The ideas weren't coming together. Everything started to flow again. Stepping back is the best way to move forward. 4. Decision-making language. This section introduces phrases and expressions used when making choices, explaining reasoning, and guiding discussions in real-life situations. C1 speakers naturally use advanced expressions in daily life, especially in professional or personal discussions. Here are some useful decision-making phrases. I'm leaning toward. I'm considering the option of. I haven't decided yet, but one thing I need to think about is. I'm weighing the pros and cons. It might be a good idea too. It's worth taking into account that. At this point, I'm inclined to. Repeat key phrases. I'm leaning toward. I'm weighing the pros and cons. It's worth taking into account that. Example sentences. I'm leaning toward taking the new job, but I still need more information. I'm considering the option of studying abroad next year. I haven't decided yet, but I'm thinking about changing my schedule. One thing I need to think about is how much time it will require. I'm weighing the pros and cons before making a decision. It might be a good idea to ask for advice. It's worth taking into account that the situation may change. At this point, I'm inclined to choose the second option. Repeat key phrases. I haven't decided yet. I'm thinking about changing my schedule. I'm inclined to choose the second option. Combining everything, idioms, paraphrasing, narrative flow, and decision-making. Listen to this smooth C1 style monologue. To be honest, I've been thinking a lot about my goals lately. I'm weighing the pros and cons of different options, and I still haven't made up my mind. Another way to look at it is that each choice leads to a different kind of growth. Yesterday, out of the blue, a friend gave me advice that really hit the nail on the head. He said, take your time and keep an open mind. And he's right. At this point, I'm inclined to stay on track with what feels meaningful. In other words, I just need to trust the process. Repeat key phrases. Each choice leads to a different kind of growth. Out of the blue. Take your time and keep an open mind. I'm inclined to stay on track. Trust the process. Next, for advanced C1 skills. These will make your speaking sound sophisticated, thoughtful, and emotionally intelligent. Expressing subtle emotions. Using rhetorical questions naturally. Combining complex clauses. Speaking reflectively with depth. 1. Expressing subtle emotions. At B2, learners often express emotions directly. I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm angry. C1 speakers show nuance, intensity, and depth. Practice these. I was slightly disappointed. I felt genuinely relieved. I was pleasantly surprised. I felt a bit uneasy. I was deeply moved. I was somewhat frustrated. I felt strangely calm. I was quietly confident. Repeat key phrases. Slightly disappointed. Genuinely relieved. Pleasantly surprised. Deeply moved. Example sentences. I was slightly disappointed with the results, but I understand why things turned out that way. When I finally got the message, I felt genuinely relieved. Her reaction was so kind that I was pleasantly surprised. The atmosphere felt tense, and I was a bit uneasy at first. The story was so touching that I was deeply moved. Repeat key phrases. Genuinely relieved. Pleasantly surprised. A bit uneasy. Deeply moved. 2. Rhetorical questions. Rhetorical questions are a powerful C1 tool. They engage listeners, emphasize ideas, and show emotion without expecting an answer. Some examples will follow next. 1. Rhetorical questions. Rhetorical questions help C1 speakers engage listeners, emphasize ideas, and make speech flow naturally. Examples. Have you ever wondered why some people improve so quickly? Isn't it amazing how small habits lead to big results? Who wouldn't want to sound more confident in English? Doesn't it feel great when everything finally clicks? Isn't it surprising how fast time flies? Repeat key phrases. Isn't it amazing how small habits lead to big results? Doesn't it feel great when everything finally clicks? Practice natural flow. Have you ever had a moment when you suddenly understood something that seemed impossible before? Doesn't that feeling stay with you for a long time? Repeat. Doesn't that feeling stay with you for a long time? 2. Complex clause combinations. C1 speakers combine ideas smoothly using complex clauses. This allows you to show cause and effect, contrast, or add extra details in one sentence. Connector patterns to practice. Although, even if, as long as, provided that, once, now that, given that, whenever, unless. Repeat. As long as, provided that, given that. Example sentences. As long as you keep practicing regularly, your fluency will continue to improve. Provided that we stay focused, we can finish earlier than expected. Even if things don't go perfectly, you can still learn a lot. Once you understand the pattern, everything becomes easier. Now that I've seen the results, I feel much more confident. Given that you've been consistent for months, your progress is impressive. Repeat key phrases, as long as you keep practicing. Even if things don't go perfectly. Once you understand the pattern. Sophisticated combinations. Although I had a lot to do, I decided to take a break, which turned out to be exactly what I needed. Since we don't have much time, we should focus on the most important tasks so that we can work efficiently. Whenever I feel stuck, I remind myself that progress often takes longer than expected. Repeat, which turned out to be exactly what I needed. So that we can work efficiently. Progress often takes longer than expected. 3. Reflective speaking. Reflective speaking helps you share insights, personal thoughts, and meaningful observations in a natural way. Example 1. To be honest, I've realized that growth doesn't always happen in obvious ways. Sometimes it's slow and subtle, almost invisible at first. But when you look back, you suddenly notice how far you've come. And in those moments, you understand that every small effort mattered. Repeat key phrases. Growth doesn't always happen in obvious ways. Slow and subtle. You suddenly notice how far you've come. Every small effort mattered. Example 2. I've been thinking about how we handle challenges. Most of the time, we only see the difficulty, not the opportunity behind it. But once the moment passes, we often realize that the challenge helped us grow stronger, more patient, and more confident. Repeat. We only see the difficulty, the opportunity behind it. The challenge helped us grow stronger. Connecting feelings with thoughts, I've come to understand that learning a language is not just about grammar. It's about discovering new ways to express yourself. It's about building confidence, embracing mistakes, and recognizing progress even when it feels small. Repeat. Discovering new ways to express yourself. Embracing mistakes. Recognizing progress. 4. Combining everything. Now you can combine subtle emotions, rhetorical questions, complex clauses, and reflective speaking into one smooth C1 level paragraph. Have you ever noticed how small daily habits can create big results? To be honest, I've realized that growth doesn't always happen in obvious ways. Even if progress feels slow, once you look back, you see how far you've come. I've been thinking about challenges, and isn't it surprising how they help us grow stronger, more patient, and confident? At this point, I'm inclined to trust the process, stay on track, and focus on what really matters. Every small effort counts, and that makes all the difference. Reflective and expressive skills. Sometimes we expect progress to happen instantly. Isn't it more realistic to see learning as a long journey rather than a quick result? Although improvement may not be visible every day, each moment of practice shapes us in ways we don't notice. Once we look back, we often feel pleasantly surprised by how much we've grown, even if the progress felt slow. Repeat key phrases, a long journey rather than a quick result. Each moment of practice shapes us. Pleasantly surprised by how much we've grown. These reflective skills help your English sound deeper, clearer, and far more advanced. For powerful C1 skill sets. In this section, we focus on advanced speculation and probability, nuanced agreement and disagreement, emphasis and inversion, real-life persuasive communication. These help you express certainty, doubt, perspective, and influence, what confident C1 speakers do naturally. 1. Advanced speculation and probability. Useful phrases. It's highly likely that. It seems reasonable to assume that. There's a strong possibility that. It could well be that. It's quite possible that. There's a chance that. It appears that. It's almost certain that. Repeat. It's highly likely that. It seems reasonable to assume that. It could well be that. It's quite possible that. Example sentences. It's highly likely that you'll improve quickly if you keep practicing. It seems reasonable to assume that he simply forgot to reply. There's a strong possibility that the meeting will be rescheduled. It could well be that she hasn't seen the message yet. It's quite possible that the delay is due to technical issues. It appears that the situation has improved. It's almost certain that your confidence will grow with experience. Repeat key phrases. A strong possibility. Could well be. Quite possible. Almost certain. 2. Nuanced agreement and disagreement. Useful expressions. I see your point, but I agree to some extent. Although that's a valid point. However, I understand what you're saying though. I'm not entirely convinced that. In a way, but I think. I'm afraid I have a slightly different perspective. Example sentences. I see your point, but I believe there are other factors to consider. I agree to some extent, although the situation is more complicated than it appears. That's a valid point. However, we still need more information. I understand what you're saying, though I would approach it differently. I'm not entirely convinced that this method is the most effective. You're right in a way, but I think we should look at the bigger picture. I'm afraid I have a slightly different perspective on this. Repeat key phrases. Other factors to consider. More complicated than it appears. Look at the bigger picture. A slightly different perspective. 3. Emphasis and inversion. Inversion adds sophistication and clarity, especially in storytelling, speeches, or formal communication. Common starters. Never have I. Rarely do we. Seldom does it. Only then did I. Not until much later did I. Hardly had I. Under no circumstances should you. Example sentences. Never have I felt more motivated to keep learning. Rarely do we realize how much progress we're making until we stop and reflect. Seldom does it happen that everything goes exactly as planned. Only then did I understand the importance of staying consistent. Not until much later did I realize how helpful that experience was. Hardly had I arrived when the meeting started. Under no circumstances should you give up on your goals. Repeat key phrases. Never have I felt more motivated. Rarely do we realize our progress. Only then did I understand the importance. 4. Real-life persuasive communication. Persuasive language helps you express opinions convincingly, motivate others, or present ideas clearly. Useful starters. There are several reasons why. The evidence suggests that. One thing worth noting is that what makes this so important is, for this reason, what we should keep in mind is that. That's exactly why. persuasive language, and speculation. Repeat key phrases. There are several reasons why. What makes this so important is, that's exactly why. Example sentences. There are several reasons why daily listening practice can transform your fluency. The evidence suggests that consistent small habits lead to long-term improvement. One thing worth noting is that your mindset plays a key role in your progress. What makes this so important is that confidence grows from repetition. For this reason, it's crucial to build routines you can maintain. What we should keep in mind is that progress isn't always immediate. That's exactly why giving up too early is such a common mistake. Repeat key phrases. Long-term improvement. Your mindset plays a key role. Progress isn't always immediate. Combining persuasion, speculation, and nuanced disagreement. Example paragraph. I understand your point, but I'm not entirely convinced that studying for long hours is the best approach. It's quite possible that shorter, more focused sessions are far more effective. One thing worth noting is that consistency matters more than intensity. What makes this especially important is that your brain retains information better when it's reviewed regularly. For this reason, I firmly believe that daily practice is the key to real progress. Repeat key lines shorter, more focused sessions are far more effective. Consistency matters more than intensity. Your brain retains information better when reviewed regularly. Daily practice is the key to real progress. Emotional emphasis with inversion. Example sentences. Never have I seen someone improve so quickly once they committed to daily practice. Not until I slowed down did I truly understand how important clarity is. Seldom does progress happen overnight, but it always happens when you keep going. Repeat. Never have I seen someone improve so quickly. Not until I slowed down did I understand. Seldom does progress happen overnight. Reflective and persuasive monologue. To be honest, there's a strong possibility that we underestimate our own abilities. Rarely do we recognize how far we've come. Isn't it amazing how small habits can completely reshape your confidence? One thing worth noting is that improvement often happens quietly beneath the surface. What we should keep in mind is that every step counts, even when it feels slow. That's exactly why consistency matters more than perfection. Repeat key phrases. Improvement often happens quietly. Every step counts. Consistency matters more than perfection. C1 storytelling with emotional depth. Emotional detail, pacing, and reflective insight make storytelling engaging. Example story. Earlier this week, I had one of those days where everything seemed to move too fast. I woke up slightly tired, but I pushed through anyway on my way to work. The bus was unusually quiet, and for some reason, that calmness made me more aware of everything around me. When I finally arrived, I realized I had forgotten an important document at home. My heart sank for a moment, but instead of panicking, I took a deep breath and tried to think clearly. Surprisingly, that small pause changed everything. It allowed me to stay calm and find a solution quickly. Later, as I looked back on the day, I felt grateful. Sometimes the most stressful moments teach us the most valuable lessons. Repeat key emotional expressions. My heart sank. I took a deep breath. That small pause changed everything. The most stressful moments teach us valuable lessons. Narrative moment. Internal change. Focus on mindset and internal growth. Example story. A few days ago, I had a conversation that stayed with me. A friend told me something simple but powerful. Don't rush your progress. At first, I didn't think much of it, but later, as I went through my day, his words kept echoing in my mind. I realized I had been expecting too much from myself too quickly. That moment made me slow down and appreciate small improvements. And honestly, that shift in mindset made a huge difference. Repeat key phrases. The conversation stayed with me. His words kept echoing in my mind. I had been expecting too much from myself. That shift in mindset made a huge difference. Advanced cause, effect structures. These help your speech sound logical, precise, and professional. Connector phrases. Due to the fact that, as a consequence of, given that, as a result of this, this ultimately led to, consequently, this was mainly because, for this reason. Repeat, due to the fact that, as a consequence of, given that, consequently. Example sentences. Due to the fact that the schedule changed, we had to reorganize our plan. As a consequence of the delay, the meeting ended later than expected. Given that you've been consistent for months, your improvement is completely natural. As a result of this new habit, my confidence has grown steadily. This ultimately led to a much clearer understanding of the topic. Consequently, we were able to finish everything on time. This was mainly because we communicated effectively. For this reason, I always try to review my progress regularly. Repeat key chunks. Your improvement is completely natural. My confidence has grown steadily. We communicated effectively. I review my progress regularly. Professional clarity in explanations. C1 speakers explain ideas clearly and logically. Common starters. The main idea is that, to clarify, what this means is that, in simple terms, to give you an example, the reason behind this is, the key difference is that, example explanations. The main idea is that regular exposure helps you internalize the language without overthinking. To clarify, you don't need to speak perfectly to communicate effectively. What this means is that small daily habits often matter more than long, intense sessions. In simple terms, consistency beats intensity. To give you an example, practicing for 10 minutes every day can be more effective than studying for 2 hours once a week. The reason behind this is that the brain remembers better with repetition. The key difference is that advanced learners focus on clarity and flow, not perfection. Repeat. Regular exposure helps you internalize the language. Consistency beats intensity. The brain remembers better with repetition. Natural spoken transitions. Transitions help you speak longer without losing flow. Common transitions. First of all, on top of that, having said that, in addition to that, to be honest, at the same time, before I continue. By the way, now that I think about it, all in all, repeat, on top of that. Having said that, at the same time, now that I think about it. Example sentences. First of all, I want to highlight how much progress you've made. On top of that, your pronunciation has improved noticeably. Having said that, there's still room for more growth. In addition to that, your vocabulary range is expanding. To be honest, your consistency is what impresses me the most. At the same time, make sure you continue practicing naturally. Now that I think about it, your listening skills are improving quickly. All in all, you're moving in a very positive direction. Repeat key phrases. Your pronunciation has improved noticeably. Your vocabulary range is expanding. You're moving in a positive direction. C1 cause, effect, clarity, and transitions. Narrative monologue. To be honest, this month has taught me a lot. First of all, I realized how powerful small daily habits can be. Due to the fact that I practiced regularly, my confidence grew much faster than I expected. On top of that, I started noticing patterns that used to confuse me. Having said that, there were still days when I felt stuck. But now that I think about it, those moments were actually useful. They pushed me to reflect and adjust my approach. All in all, this experience showed me that progress happens not only through success, but also through the challenges we overcome. Repeat core ideas. Small daily habits are powerful. Those moments were actually useful. Progress happens through challenges we overcome. C1 summarizing. Summary starters. In summary, to put it briefly, all things considered, to sum it up, at the end of the day overall. Polished summaries. In summary, moving from B2 to C1 is not about perfection. It's about expanding your vocabulary, sharpening your clarity, and expressing ideas with more depth and confidence. All things considered, the most effective strategy is staying consistent with daily listening and speaking practice. To sum it up, your progress depends on small habits, not big moments. At the end of the day, what really matters is that you keep showing up. Repeat key phrases. Express ideas with more depth and confidence. The most effective strategy is staying consistent. Your progress depends on small habits. Emotional closure and reflective insight. You've spent this time practicing with focus and dedication, and that's something you should genuinely be proud of. Growth isn't always visible in the moment, but it builds quietly until one day you realize how far you've come. There will be days when learning feels slow, and days when everything suddenly clicks. Both moments matter. Both moments shape your fluency. What's important is that you stay open, stay patient, and trust yourself. Every sentence you repeat, every idea you understand, every mistake you correct, it all contributes to the speaker you are becoming. Repeat. Everything suddenly clicks. Both moments shape your fluency. Trust yourself. Motivation and persuasive closure. If there's one thing I hope you take away from this lesson, it's this: you don't need to rush. Real fluency comes from steady progress, not pressure. You're allowed to learn at your own pace. You're allowed to take breaks. You're allowed to grow slowly. What matters is that you never stop moving forward. Repeat. Real fluency comes from steady progress. Learn at your own pace. Never stop moving forward. Full polished C1 closing script. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. You've just completed a full training session designed to help you move from B2 to C1 with clarity, confidence, and natural expression. If you reach this point, it shows true dedication. Remember, every minute you invest in listening and speaking brings you closer to the fluency you want. So, keep practicing, keep exploring, and keep believing in your progress. If you found this lesson helpful, make sure to subscribe to Feel Learns English and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. Your likes, comments, and shares help this channel grow and allow me to continue creating more lessons for learners around the world. I'd love to hear from you. Tell me in the comments what part of today's practice helped you the most. Your voice matters here, and your journey inspires others too. Thank you again for being here. Until next time, keep learning, keep speaking, and keep moving forward. Repeat essential closing lines: clarity, confidence, and natural expression. Every minute you invest brings you closer to fluency. Your voice matters here. Keep moving forward.